So we're now in chapter 17 of Revelation, and before we move on, I just wanted to explain that there were no chapters or verses when the book of Revelation was written. In fact, all the other books of the Bible didn't have chapters or verses. That came later on, a few hundred years ago. So chapter 17 and chapter 16 are linked, as you shall see here. Verse 1 says, "And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials." So one of these angels is the angels is an angel that we read about in chapter 16 when we read about the seven last plagues. So remember, the word vial simply means a bowl, a shallow bowl. Okay, see that, a shallow cup or a bowl. It says, "This angel," and it says, "and talked with me," with John, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters." So I think many of you know, or all of you know, that I'm using the King James Version. Okay, so here where it says, "Come hither," some of you might not know what that means. This just means come here, okay, or come near. So let me just read that again. "And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters." So let's just explain this last part here. God is going to judge this great whore here. Remember, in prophecy, a woman is a church, and it can be a bad church or a good church. So here, this is a bad church. A whore is basically a prostitute. This church, symbolized as a prostitute, sits upon many waters. And if we go to verse 15, it says here, "And he saith unto me," that same angel, I think, is the one talking to John, "he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues." So water represents a heavily populated area. It represents people. Okay, so this is actually talking about the papacy, which is located in Europe, in Rome. And this the waters, which we know to represent people, can be people in that region of Europe, or it can be members of the Roman Catholic Church. They say that the Catholic Church is one of the biggest churches in the world, and I use the word church very lightly. It's not a real church. Okay, it's a fake church. It's actually the Roman Empire. The ecclesiastical Roman Empire masquerading as a church. Verse 2, "With whom," this whore here, this bad church, the papacy, says, "with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." So the kings of the earth have got some kind of relationship with the papacy. When it says they commit fornication, this is not physical fornication, it's spiritual fornication. In the same way that ancient Israel committed fornication against God by worshipping idols and also aligning themselves with the other heathen nations. Okay, so the kings of the earth, the royal families, but by extension the politicians as well, they are in cahoots with the papacy. And it says here, "The inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk." When you see the word inhabitants here, just replace that word with "the people of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication." And I dealt with this previously and explained that they are not getting drunk literally from wine. The wine that's being spoken of here is propaganda, okay, false teachings. This is both the false teachings of the Catholic Church, such as Sunday sacredness, Mary worship, the belief that Peter was the first pope, so that would also have a connection to papal succession. The belief in the immortality of the soul, praying for the dead and to the dead, praying to saints, infant baptism, purgatory, and many such false teachings, which I've covered many times in my videos. So so I was saying that there's this false spiritual teachings of the papacy, that those are the ones that are referred to as wine. But it can also be other things which are not necessarily things that are believed by the Catholic Church. There are things that are believed by those outside the Catholic Church, which emanate from the Catholic Church, such as the belief in pandemics, of which I've explained that there's no such thing as a pandemic. Okay, it's all fake. For instance, with the last so-called pandemic that we had, it was all on TV. It was in people's minds. It wasn't actually happening in reality. And I've explained many times that the pandemic, which I actually call the scamdemic, was run by the Department of Defense in America, because it was a depopulation exercise, and it was an exercise to inject people with nanotech, so to begin the first stages of transhumanism. So pandemics, climate change, all these false things and the false science is what is being referred to here as wine. But it's mostly the false teachings of the Catholic Church, such as what I've already mentioned. Moving on to verse 3 here. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. So before I move on to verse 3, actually, let me just go back here. These teachings, there are some teachings which are believed by Roman Catholics, which are actually also believed by non-Catholics, such as Protestants. So, for instance, Sunday sacredness is also believed by those in the Protestant churches, and the immortality of the soul is also believed by those outside the Catholic Church as well. So there are many beliefs, and even in the Anglican Church, initially, when the Anglican Church broke away from the Roman Catholic Church, they rejected Mariology, but nowadays they also reverence Mary. And I know this from personal experience, because I visited an Anglican church when I was in England. I saw that they had an idol of Mary in the rafters of the church. So so the inhabitants of the earth are drunk with the propaganda of the Catholic Church. Verse 3, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and the wilderness, see here, we have the sea, a highly populated or heavily populated area. Then here in verse 3, we have a wilderness, which is a sparsely populated area, which, let's just read on. It carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast. So scarlet is red, okay? So red beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, I'll explain what all this means. So we have a woman sitting on a beast. Okay, a woman is a church. A beast represents the state, okay, or secular government. So this is talking about church and state. So if a woman is sitting on a beast, who is in control here? It's the same as someone sitting on a horse and riding a horse. The person who's on top of the beast, of which a horse is also a beast. The one who sits on a beast is the one in control. So here the church is in control of the state. It says this beast is full of names of blasphemy, and it has 7 heads and 10 horns. And I'll explain what 7 heads and the 10 horns mean in a few minutes. Verse 4, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet. The woman, the church, was dressed. This word arrayed just means dressed in purple and scarlet. And here, if we go here, we show you that purple and scarlet are the official colors of the Roman Catholic Church, as you can see here. And it even says here, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet. Revelation 17 verse 4. These are the colors of the Catholic Church. Okay, that cannot be disputed. But some may say, well, that's just coincidence. Let's carry on reading here. And decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand. full of abominations. Now, so this woman, which we know to be the papacy or the Catholic Church, is not only wearing purple and scarlet. Remember, I said the word scarlet simply means red. Okay, dressed in purple and red colors, decked with gold. Now, before I show you some other photos, it's well known that the Catholic Church is the richest institution in the world, and of course we have the popes, including the late Francis I, who said that the rich should give to the poor. But actually, the Catholic Church is the richest institution in the world, and they don't give anything to the poor. They're actually very good at collecting money from the poor. So I said I was going to show you some photos of St. Peter's Basilica inside. You see here there's gold, and I know of a man and his wife who actually went to the Vatican, and then they were allowed to visit or to view some of the treasures that are stored in the treasury of the Vatican. It's very, very rich. And this person and his wife, it's actually Pastor Maurice Berry. He told me that when he and his wife went to the Vatican, they were allowed to go into a certain part of the Vatican, which is not normally visited. It just so happened that when they were visiting, that room was actually open to them as almost like a special occasion. And he said that they saw the Pope's crown that has the words "Vicarius Filii Dei," but of course the Catholic Church denies that there's such a thing as a crown that has the words "Vicarius Filii Dei." So this is the inside of St. Peter's Basilica, but there are some other things as well which I can't show you here, which proves that the Catholic Church is very rich. Okay, let's moving on. This woman has a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication, false teachings and things like that. Verse 5, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. In fact, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I was on YouTube and there was this girl or young lady who said that she once believed that America in general was Babylon, but she had changed her mind and she now believes that New York is Babylon, which is it's way off. It's Babylon is not America or New York. It does not fit the traits or characteristics of Babylon. I mean, Babylon. There are two Babylons. There's the geographic Babylon, which had its center in modern day Iraq, and then there's spiritual Babylon, which we know to be the papacy. The papacy has sought to change God's times and laws according to in fulfillment of Daniel 7:25, the second part of Daniel 7:25, and has killed God's saints, as we shall read in verse 6 here, and many other such things. And like I've explained to you here, that when it talks about the inhabitants of the earth being drunk with the wine of Babylon, it's false teachings. Okay, New York is not doing any of these things. Okay, so it does not fit this prophetic picture that we read about here. So this woman has the words Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth written on her forehead. So what does it mean when it says the mother of harlots? She has daughters. Okay, and who are the daughters? The daughters are the churches that came out of the papacy during the Protestant Reformation. So but these churches are fallen. Why? Because they also believe some of the false doctrines of the Catholic Church. The mother of harlots. The harlots are the fallen Protestant churches. Verse 6, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. What does that mean? It means this Mystery Babylon, this great harlot, kills God's saints. There was only one religious organization that has killed God's saints more than any other, and that's it's the Catholic Church, to the extent that even the popes have actually apologized for some of the massacres and genocides that have happened in the past. For instance, they massacred the Waldenses and the Albigenses. This is well reported. I've got a book about that. It's written by J.A. Wiley, and she's drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So this word here does not mean that John the Revelator admired the papacy. Let's just see what it actually says here. He marveled, basically, as the angel says to him here in the next verse. Wherefore didst thou marvel? He marveled at the papacy, how cruel and wicked she is, how cruel she is towards God's saints, the martyrs of Jesus, and the methods that she would use to kill the saints, okay, simply because they had a different belief to her. So let me show you some of the instruments that were used during the so-called Holy Office of Inquisition. By the way, the Office of Inquisition still exists. I explained this in my video where I spoke about, in my video that I titled Deconstructing Christian Deconstruction. Okay, but let me show you some of the instruments that they used here. So we have all these instruments here. They used certain instruments to pull out people's nails and things like that whilst they're still alive. They were still alive, obviously. There's a book here, Inquisition. Normally, these places were underground. I think in hidden away somewhere. See here, there's a coffin with nails on it, and I think it's actually called the Iron Maiden. I'll show you more pictures just now. There were many various different types of torture instruments that were used to torture Christians. Here we have a picture where Christians are being hung from the ceiling, and then some of them would have their feet burnt whilst they were still alive. Women had their breasts chopped off. So here I was talking about the Iron Maiden. You see here, it was like a coffin where someone would be placed. I know there's a rock group called Iron Maiden. I believe they took their name from this same thing. Someone would go inside here and then they'll close the door. The door and the sides of this coffin-looking structure had nails in it, and then those nails would actually pierce the person inside there, and they would die a very slow and agonizing death, or basically bleed to death. All this was done in the name of Christianity. So, in the world there are many people who say they will never be Christians, or they are not Christians because of what Christians did in the past and even in the present, where all these wars are being fought in the name of religion. But they don't understand that this is actually, it's the Roman Empire that did this, but they simply changed their name to Roman Catholic Church, claiming to be a Christian church. You see here, perhaps I can just blow this up. I wanted to show you that, here. I just wanted to blow this up so it's easier to see. Where they would pull someone up, they would have a pulley where they would use ropes to pull someone up, and their hands would be tied behind their backs. Of course, this would cause a lot of excruciating pain. Here they are pouring lead down forcibly pouring lead down someone's throat. So here someone is having their feet burnt, and then they would have someone. I think this person would be called the Inquisitor General, will be writing notes they'll be trying to get a confession out of these Christians to say that they were to get them to admit that they were guilty of heresy. But of course, you can admit to anything when you're being tortured. I also wanted to show you something else that they would do is that they would actually burn Christians. Once they would finish torturing Christians, what would normally happen is that they would actually burn them on the stake, burn them at the stake, like what happened with William Tyndale, who was first choked to death and then he was burnt at the stake. That picture is not coming up, but here, this picture here. And this is a painting of so-called Pope Innocent III, who was also involved in torturing and executing and murdering Christians. So this is what they used to do to many Christians. They would be burnt alive, whilst priests, Roman Catholic priests, would be cursing them, and others will come and witness everything. So this is not, no one denies that the Catholic Church did this. It's well known, and even like I said earlier, the popes actually, many popes have apologized for this. But of course, I don't believe that those apologies were sincere. We even had going as far back as, excuse me, John Paul II, who apologized, and Francis I also apologized for all the atrocities and genocides that were committed against Christians by the Roman Catholic Church. But of course, they're trying to apologize to make it look like the Catholic Church has changed so that they can get Protestants to put their guard down and maybe potentially even join the Catholic Church. So we're just carrying on here. Yeah, this woman is drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. So here, John says, and when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. He wasn't admiring her. He was astonished. Verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and the 10 horns. Remember, the beast that this woman is riding has 7 heads and 10 horns. Verse 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. Perdition simply means destruction. Okay, let's just look it up. See here, destruction. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life. The inhabitants of the earth, the people of the earth shall wonder after this woman here. If we go to Revelation chapter 13, you see here, and I saw one of his heads. This is the first half of Revelation chapter 13 is talking about the papacy. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast, except for those whose names are written in the book of life. Okay, they do not wonder or follow the beast. Now, where were we? Verse 8. See here, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life. So there's a small minority who do not wonder or follow the beast from the foundation of the world. Yeah, those whose names are not written in the book. Let me just read that again. Those whose names are not written in the book of life, they will wonder after the beast. Let me just read again. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. Written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Verse 9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. I've explained this before. So he's talking about the location where this woman is. It's talking about where this woman is located. She's located among 7 mountains. Now, Rome is built on 7 hills. Let me just look that up quickly. Hopefully, it'll come up quickly. Perhaps we can just go back here until it comes up. Verse 9, and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are, these are the 7 heads on the beast that we read about before. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. See here, the 7 hills of Rome are the 7 geographical elevations east of the Tiber River that form the core of the ancient city. And now here they are here, the 7 hills. In fact, here there are more than 7 here. I don't know why there are more than 7, but I'm not even going to attempt to say some of these names because I might butcher the pronunciation. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Capitol Hill, and there are many who say that like how in the United States you have Capitol Hill. It's named after this, and in fact even Washington D.C. in Rome was initially called Rome as well, from what I remember. So Rome is built on 7 hills. That's all you need to know. Okay, you don't need to memorize those names that I just showed you. Verse 10, and this is the verse that we're ending with today, but it actually contains a lot of information. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is. So there are 7 kings. And remember, a king represents or symbolizes. A king represents a kingdom. Okay, there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. This word here is simply means 5 are in the past. 5 kingdoms are in the past. Okay. At the time that John the Revelator wrote this, 5 kingdoms were already past. Okay. So which kingdoms are those? Let's go here. I'll just show you this chart here. This actually says who is the 7th king, because there's a 7th king who is mentioned in verse 10. Okay. There are actually 8 kings that are mentioned in verse 10 and 11. Okay, you see here there's an 8th king was mentioned, but here I just want to show you the 5 that I believe are being mentioned. There are some who believe that the papacy is amongst the 5 that are fallen, but that cannot be, because when John was writing, the papacy hadn't come on the scene yet. So I believe it starts with Egypt first. Okay, Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and then Greece. I said these 5 here are fallen at the time when John was writing. So if we go to Jeremiah 50, Egypt is mentioned in Exodus 1 verse 1, but if we go to Jeremiah 50 verse 17, it mentions the kingdom of Assyria. Let's just go there and look at that quickly. Jeremiah 50 verse 17. It says here, Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First the king of Assyria hath devoured him, and last this Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon hath broken his bones. So you see in that same verse it mentions 2 kingdoms that will hold sway or conquer Israel. So we have Assyria was mentioned, and then we have Babylon was mentioned as well. And there are others that are mentioned. If we go to the book of Daniel, Middle Persia is mentioned there quite a lot. And then Greece is also mentioned in Daniel chapter 8. And Rome is also mentioned in the New Testament. So these five, this is pagan Rome. This is pagan Rome. Okay, these five here, Greece, going up to Greece. These had already were in the past by the time John wrote the book of Revelation. And then if you go to, let's go back to verse 10 here. 5 are fallen and one is. The one that is pagan Rome that was ruling at the time when John was writing. Remember that John was actually put on the Isle of Patmos as a punishment for speaking about Jesus and spreading the gospel. Initially, they tried to kill John by boiling him in a cauldron of boiling oil. But when they failed to kill him, because John just stood up and started preaching, they failed to kill him. Then they put him on the Isle of Patmos as to just get him away, basically. And this is where he wrote the book of Revelation. So the one is Rome, is pagan Rome. The other has not yet come. So in fact, let's go back here. So there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. There was Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Middle Persia, Greece. And Greece, those are 5, and the one is pagan Rome, which came after Greece. Okay, and the other is not yet come. He's talking about the papacy. He's talking about the Roman Catholic Church. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. He's talking about the Roman Catholic Church. Perhaps this is a short space in comparison to all the other 6, or the other 6 here that have come before it. There are some who say that somewhere in here towards the after the first 5 kingdoms that I showed you, that America is in there as well. I don't know. I don't know that to be the case, but because the main kingdoms that God deals with in the book of Daniel and Revelation are Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, and Rome. But here we're dealing with 7. So I believe that Egypt is the first one. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo, Persia, and then Greece. So those are the first 5. Pagan Rome is the 6th. Papal Rome is the 7th. There are some even that will say that these 7 kings are actually popes. They try to name some popes, and they say, oh, the 7th king is one of is the last pope that will come on the scene, and he then dies and he's resurrected and he becomes the 8th. That's not what this is talking about. He's talking about these empires that came on the scene. Way in the past before this book was written. So let's just. I'm supposed to end with verse 10, but I just want to show you that the 7th king is the papacy, but the 8th king is also the papacy as well. Why? Because the papacy received a deadly wound in 1798. So it's almost like it died, but then it was resurrected. So here, verse 11 says, "And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th." Okay, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. Basically, once again, the word perdition means to go into destruction. Okay, so the papacy continues to rule until the second coming of Christ, and it will be destroyed when Christ comes back to the earth. But the 7th king and the 8th king are all one and the same. Why? Because it's a papacy. It's dealing with how the papacy ruled for 1,260 years during the period commonly referred to as the Dark Ages. And then in 1798, it received a deadly wound when the Pope was arrested by Napoleon's general, whose name was Berthier. But then the papacy was revived again in 1929 when the papacy signed a treaty with Mussolini. Okay, so this is the 8th king. The 8th king and the 7th king are the same. It's the papacy. Okay, let me just stop there today, and then next time we'll carry on from verse 11 onwards. I hope everything made sense to you. But maybe let me just finish by going through the 7 kings again, in case it's not very clear. So if we go back here, we have these 8 kings. It's Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then Papal Rome. Papal Rome receives a deadly wound, but then is then resurrected and becomes the 8th. I believe that this is what this is talking about. Yeah, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.